Hello, guys. Oh my God, I'm back in front of the mic again. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Barbie. And before I was an American, I was a little girl growing up in Cuba. If you like my stories and you want to know more, please like, share, and subscribe. I wasn't born into freedom. I was born into a country where the government controlled nearly every part of your life. When speaking your mind could have consequences, where people learned to whisper instead of speaking openly, where hope slowly turned into fear. When people talk about socialism or communism, they're usually talking about politics. When I hear those words, I'm thinking about my family. I think about everything we left behind. I'm thinking about why thousands of Cubans risk everything to escape. March 1977 changed my life forever. My family climbed into a small fiberglass boat and crossed 90 miles of open ocean with 2 children on board. My brother, who was 3, and I was 9. Not because we were looking for a better vacation, not because we wanted something for free, but because we wanted freedom. Freedom to speak, freedom to worship, freedom to build a life where government didn't decide our future. When the United States Coast Guard rescued us, America didn't just give my family a new home. It gave us another life. That is something I have never forgotten. So when I hear people in America talk about socialism, when I hear organizations praising the Cuban Revolution, when I hear people say capitalism should be abolished, I don't hear political slogans. I hear echoes of a country I escaped. And that's why today's episode is personal. Over the past several weeks, I decided to stop listening to everyone's opinions. I didn't go looking for clips on social media. I didn't go looking for commentators who already agree with me. I went directly to the source. I spent hours reading the Democratic Socialists of America's own website, their own platform, their own statement, their own publications. Today, I am going to show you exactly what I found, or a little bit of it. Not from rumors, not from headlines, from their own words. You can agree with them, you can disagree with them, but before any of us vote, we should know exactly what they believe. So let's begin. After everything my family lived through, I don't have the luxury of ignoring words like socialism or communism. I don't. When I started hearing more and more about an organization called the Democratic Socialists of America, or DSA, I wanted to know who they really were. Not from Fox News, not from CNN, not from Facebook. I wanted to know what they say and said. So I did something I wish more people would do. I went straight to their own website because they're not hiding it. They're very vocal about it. I spent days reading their platform, their publications, their statements, their chapter information, and their own social media. They are everywhere. I'll put it to you this way. They change that website daily. If they get a little pushback, they go back in, change the words, and then put it back out again and update it. But everything ends up in the same place, communism. There's nothing social about it. I wasn't looking for I got you moment. I was looking for the truth. And I promised myself that if I was going to talk about this organization, I was going to use their own words, not mine. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. The Democratic Socialists of America describes itself as the largest socialist organization in the United States. Let that sink in for a second. Not a discussion group, not a book club, not an online chat room or a Discord channel. An organized political movement with chapters across the country, hundreds of thousands of followers on social media, publications, conventions, working group, and endorsed political candidates. Then I started asking myself another question. if they are so organized, why aren't more Americans talking about them? So I kept reading. One of the first documents I came across was their statement about Cuba. As many of you know, I was born in Cuba. I escaped Cuba. So when I read the words, "Long live the Cuban Revolution," I stop. Because those 7 words mean something completely different to me than they might mean to someone who has only read about Cuba in the history books. To some people, the Cuba Revolution was an idea. To me, is the reason my family climbed into a tiny boat and crossed 90 miles of open water looking for freedom, with 2 children on board. When I hear someone celebrate that revolution, I immediately ask one question. Have you ever talked to anybody who escaped Cuba? Have you talked to anybody who had fled a communist country? Then I found something else. After reading their statement about Cuba, I wanted to know if that was just one isolated opinion, or if it reflected something much bigger. So I kept reading. And the deeper I went, the more I realized this wasn't just about one issue. No, no, no. It was about an entire vision for what America should become, meaning rip up the Constitution, abolish the Senate, even the president. I found page after page outlining what they believe, what they want to change, and in many cases, what they want to abolish. So instead of telling you, I'm going to show you. So let's dig in. Let's start with the first one. Here we go. So this is their clothing, all the stuff all their merch. But I want to read something to you. It says, we must replace capitalism with the democratic socialist system where ordinary people have a real voice in our workplaces, neighborhoods, and society. Wear this merch to spread the word. No, I don't understand how that works because don't come to my house with that. So let's share another one. Let's do their chapters. Check this out. So they have in every single state, most in cities. But what caught my attention, because I went into this website about a month ago and I didn't see any Florida chapters. Well, lo and behold, now they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 chapters in Florida. And what really blew my mind is that they have one in Miami, right here, Miami, Florida. They all have group emails, websites. So that means that they have a website in Miami. Let's see what the Miami one says. Check this out. So look at these faces. What did that shows you? Young people. Young people. These people needed a divided country, a small crack to weed themselves in. And the Democratic Party was the perfect vehicle for them to do so because they hijacked that party. They literally hijacked it. So this is in Miami, people. Look at all the events they have in July. And I was dumbfounded when I seen this in Miami. First, because Miami is typically a melting pot. A lot of people have left communism. And it just didn't make sense to me. Let's see. I don't even know what to say. I am dumbfounded. This is not a book club. This is a movement. This is all they are. So, of course, no war in Iran. Abolish ICE. That'll come next. It just constantly scrolls. Become a member, get updates, join the DSA. They have a YouTube channel too. Wow. Learn more about the Democratic Socialists. I am telling you, people, you guys need to go to this website and get the scoop. Join a national call, learn about national projects, find a local chapter, join the DSA. Our campaigns, the DSA and YDSA chapters organized around various issues, striving to run strategy campaigns based on local conditions nationally. We also provide resources and support for work done as part of our major priorities as democratically vote upon. Bernie Sanders launched a political revolution, and DSA continues to build it, train our chapters, and effectively support Democratic Socialist candidates running for local state office while lifting up our key issues. Again, I go back to they hijacked the Democratic Party. That's what they did. And they allowed it. I want to believe that some of the Democrats are really appalled. But I don't know. I think it's too late. So statements. The Democratic Socialists of America endorse spirits of Mandela national mobilizations against genocide. You know what? That's not what they're doing. But they do change the words around if somebody calls them on it. So everything sounds amazing. And the young people obviously love it because they're pissed off. I said it in one of my shows. They're very pissed off. So all of this comes from their website. Don't listen to the news. Don't listen to people in social media. Educate yourself because they're going to mess everything up. They literally want to tear our Constitution. So let's start with the economy. The DSA doesn't simply want to regulate capitalism. Oh, no, no, no. Their long-term vision is to move beyond capitalism toward democratic socialists. They argue that workers, not private owners, should have much greater control over the economy. Whether you agree with that or not, that is their position. Then I kept reading, and again, go to their website. They call for abolishing ICE. They oppose immigrant detention centers. So what they want is full open borders. And I read that in their website as well. I just don't know where I have it at to share it. But trust me, they don't want borders at all. So be prepared to just have open borders. And wait, they even want no jails. So people can just commit crimes and there would be no jails. They advocate what they describe as free movement of people. Again, I'm not putting words in their mouth. These are their own statements. Then I found their abolition working group. Then their publications. Then, as you saw, their chapters. And again, everything leads to another website. So you must go to their website and get educated and see who are the candidates that they put forthcoming. There's a book. I talked about that in one of my earlier shows, The Roadmap to Communism. My dad, 81 years old, have taught me so much about communism. They are following this playbook to the T. And as much as I want to blame the youngster, think about it. They got scammed, and now they went to college. They're not getting the jobs that they went to college for. And this is very easy to sell because it sounds great. So then their membership growth daily. As I said, last month, I was on their website and I didn't see any Miami chapters. And now there's 9 of them. And the one that shocked me was Miami. I don't even know how my Cubans can allow that. And that's when something hit me. Again, this is not an online meeting. This is not a book club. This is freaking big. This is a national organization growing daily. organizing, recruiting, endorsing candidates, holding conventions, training activists, publishing political material, and doing it all in the open. They're not hiding. I wish Trump was just a little communist and could shut this down. I really do. Because they're not hiding it. As I was reading all of this, I kept coming back to the same question. Why are so few Americans not talking about this? Even Democrats should be appalled. They hijacked your party. And the Democrats are to blame because they have divided us so badly that the communists, that's how they operate. They saw a crack and they wiggled their way in. Maybe they already know. Maybe some Democrats already know and don't think they have the power to change the route. Or maybe they just don't care. Or maybe most people simply have no idea this organization exists. Because I'll be honest, until I started researching it, I didn't know how extensive it had become either. Do you remember when Sanders ran for president? He was shut down. And now, look where we're at now. Then I started looking at the chapter map, chapter after chapter, state after state, membership growing, candidates winning elections. And I realized this wasn't a future conversation. It was a present one. We need to talk about this. Then I came across something that stopped me cold. Democratic Socialists of America published a statement ending with words like, "Long live the Cuban Revolution." I read it once, I read it again, and I just sat there like, oh my God. Because I don't know anyone who escaped Cuba who would ever say those words. But then again, I didn't think this chapter could be in Miami, Florida, or in West Palm Beach, or in Tampa, Orlando. To some people, the Cuban Revolution is an academic discussion. To me, it has faces. My mother's face, my family's faces, friends we left behind, families separated forever, people who lost everything. Imagine being so desperate that you will leave everything. I've often heard people say Cuba failed because of sanctions. Maybe you heard that too. But let me ask you something. If Cuba is everything they say it is, why do people keep risking their lives to leave? Why did my family? Why did thousands before us? Why do people still get on a homemade raft, knowing they could die before reaching Florida? People don't flee freedom. They flee hopelessness. It's a growing movement that we need to be very careful. We really do. We didn't leave Cuba because we hated my country. We left because we loved freedom more. And there's a difference. When my family climbed into that little fiberglass boat, we weren't chasing wealth. We weren't chasing free health care. We weren't chasing free college. We were chasing something far more valuable. The chance to make our own choices, to speak without fear, to disagree without punishment, to build our own future. That is freedom. So when I hear someone celebrate the Cuban Revolution, I have to ask, have you ever sat down with someone who escaped it? Have you ever listened? Not argue, just listen. Because history looks very different depending on which side of the ocean you're standing on. But Cuba wasn't the only thing that caught my attention as I continue reading. I noticed the word abolish. It kept appearing over and over again. And I tell you, they have a roll through in their website. If you stay there long enough, you can see all of it. Not once, not twice, over and over and over again. Abolish capitalism, abolish ICE, abolish working groups, fundamentally changing institutions. Again, these are not my words, these are theirs. And that's when I stopped asking, who are they? And started asking, what kind of country are they trying to build? Because every movement has a destination. Every movement has a vision. The question is, do Americans know what that vision is? Do you know what that vision is? If so, please let me know. Enlighten me. That's not a question only for Republicans, by the way, or Democrats, or independents. That's a question every America should ask before you support any movement. Know where it's trying to take the country. I know some people are watching right now and thinking, Barbie, that's Cuba. This is America. I understand that. America is not Cuban. And I'm not saying it is. What I'm saying is this. When you've lived through history once, you pay attention. When you hear similar language, you pay attention. You don't ignore it. You ask questions. And that's exactly what I did. As I continue reading this DSA own website, and by the way, the communist website, I found they weren't talking about one issue. They were talking about changing the entire system. All of it. Not one policy. The entire system. Immigration, the courts, the military, policing, education, foreign policy, even the structure of our government. Whether you agree with those ideas or not, that's a conversation every American should know is happening. Because ideas don't stay on paper forever. Eventually, someone tries to turn them into policy. One thing I kept asking myself while I was reading all of this was how many Americans actually know what the DSA believes? Go to their website. Not what somebody on television says. Go to their website. Not what somebody posts on social media. Go to their website. But what the organization itself says. And that is the main website. That website would take you to the local chapters and see what's happening or what they're saying in your state. Because if you're going to support a movement, shouldn't you know what that movement stands for? If you're going to vote for a candidate, shouldn't you know which organization endorsed them? That's not a Republican question. That's not a Democratic question. That's an American question. An informed voter is a stronger voter. Whether we end up agreeing or disagreeing, this is probably the most controversial part of my research. The DSA is not the Democratic Party. I've said it a few times. They hijacked the Democratic Party. They say that themselves, but in many of the candidates they support run as Democrats. That's why they need the Democratic Party. That's why I think it's important for people to understand the difference. Some Democrats reject DSA's platform. Others embrace part of it. And that's up to the voters to decide. My point isn't to tell you how to vote. My point is this. I know who is influencing the people asking for your vote. Read their platform. Read their endorsement. Do your homework. Because your vote is too valuable to give it away without knowing exactly what you're supporting. I hope you do that, if nothing more. Again, they are not Democrats. Just remember that. Before I end today's episode, I want to leave you with one final thought. There was a time in America, back in the 1940s and the 1950s, when communism wasn't viewed as just another political opinion. It was viewed by many Americans as a serious threat to the country. Some people were killed and attacked because of it. During the Cold War, people worried about Soviet influence, espionage, and the spread of communism governments around the world. There were congressional investigations, loyalty oath, and the Hollywood blacklist. Some of those actions were still debated today because they also raised important questions about civil liberties and free speech. Whether you think every response from that era was justified or not, one thing is undeniable. America took the threat of communism very seriously. Fast forward to today, organizations that openly identify as socialists have websites. They have chapters across the country. They recruit members. They endorse candidates. They hold conventions. They publish their own magazines. They raise money. And they participate openly in our political process. That is remarkable change in just a few generations. After reading the DSA's own website, or the communist website, after reading their platform, after reading their statements on Cuba, after reading their positions on capitalism, ICE, and the changes they want to make, including abolishing Congress, I came away with my own conclusion. In my own opinion, the direction they are advocating moves far beyond what most Americans think as a traditional democratic politic. Based on my life experience growing up in Cuba and everything I have researched and everything my dad has taught me, I see ideas that concern me deeply. That's my opinion, and it's why I believe this conversation matters. I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm just asking you to ask questions, read, research, think for yourself. Don't let me do your thinking. Don't let television do your thinking. Don't let social media do your thinking. Go to the source. Go to the source, read it, then decide. Because an informed citizen is one of the greatest protection of a free country. As for me, I will always see these conversations through the eyes of a little girl who left Cuba in a small fiberglass boat with her family, hoping America would give us something that we couldn't find at home. Freedom. Freedom to speak, freedom to disagree, freedom to build a life, and freedom to ask hard questions, even when the answers make us uncomfortable. If you watched this far, thank you. If this episode made you think, share it with someone. Subscribe if you haven't already, and remember, freedom is easy to take for granted until you've lived without it. I am Barbie, and this is Barbie Unfiltered 67. I'll see you in the next one.